secret I've kept over the years. Periodically, some old geezer here in the nursing home will come up to me and say, he was, whoever he was, he was a skier or a motorcycle rider or a skydiver or something like that. Okay, I'll shut up while you talk.
That's all right. Today on Kraken's Garage, we're going to do some short stories with Ann, my stepmother, who's 90 years old, and I turned 60 yesterday. So between the two of us, I have 45 years of riding, and you have how many?
Oh, that's a good question. I started in 78?
22?
1978, not 78 years. 40 years. 40.
So I have 45 years of riding, and Ann has 40 years of riding. Between the two of us, don't ever discount the elderly, because they have lived a full life. So between the two of us, we have 85 years of riding experience. Think about that. But today we're going to do some short stories, and we're going to talk about Ann's bikes that she's owned in the past. Let's get cracking. Good Moto morning. Welcome to Kraken's Garage. I'm your host, Eric, and on today's episode, we're going to interview Ann, and we're going to talk about her bikes that she's owned in the past. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ann. I only have one cordless mic because this is the Walmart version of YouTube. Go ahead. You started riding when?
1978, which is about 40 years ago.
Right.
And in those days, women just didn't. They really didn't ride bikes. They rode as passengers with their husbands. There were plenty of them.
Correct.
And the funny part was I never was a very happy passenger. I avoided riding on the back with Flip if I possibly could, and did a lot of squeaking and yelling and shrieking in his ear. Like, do you see that gravel up ahead? I think there's an oily patch there.
Right.
or whatever, and it irritated him no end. But I was very happy riding my own bike. Maybe I was a control freak, I don't know.
I would argue you were a tom girl in the sense that if the boys can do it, I can do it better. And you always jumped in the deep end with both feet.
Yeah, I probably did. But actually, you got me started riding. You were 16, and you didn't have your driver's license yet.
Nope.
But you wanted to buy a Honda Express in the worst way. You had the money saved up to pay for it. You begged me to let you get the bike because it was for sale in the paper, and you wouldn't ride it. Absolutely, you'd keep it in the garage until you hit 16 and got your license and blah, blah, blah. So I started riding your Honda Express because I had taken a Jaguar we owned to work at the hospital in downtown Long Beach, which was a seedy, rundown neighborhood.
Right.
And I had parked the car, and some guys had tried to break in the car and had taken a cover off of it that I left in the daytime. And I worked in the OR, and they brought the cover up to the OR, and they said, "We don't know how to put this back on your car, and it's locked, we can't get inside, but here's your cover," and these guys tried to steal the car. So if I rode the Honda Express to work, I could keep it in a bicycle cage at the front door, and I had a key to the cage.
Right.
So I began riding the Honda Express. Flip, in the meantime, came home from a TDY, and he said, we have two Jaguars, and one of them is always in the shop. So as an alternative way to get to work, because we both had jobs where we had to get to work, me in the operating room and him as a test pilot at Douglas. He said, "I'm going to buy an old secondhand bike that one of the guys at work is selling for like $800 or something."
That CB354.
Exactly.
I'll never forget it. It was the fruitiest looking bike I ever saw. It had that geeky windshield, and the person at Douglas that sold it to him was a square dancer. And it had the square dancing couple sticker on the windshield, and I'm like, "Dad, I'm not going to be seen in public with you riding that damn thing."
That's funny. So he said, "Would you like to learn to ride the bike?" We started, I had no bike experience at all. Mm-hmm. But we had started going out for dinner and down the coast and to, Laguna Beach or something on the bike at night to get supper and come back just as a little toot. And he said, would you like to learn to ride this? And I said, sure. So we went down the road to the parking lot at the marina, which was mostly empty during the week. Flip got on this Honda Express, and I got on the CB350, and it was a heavy, heavy bike, 4-cylinder. Mm-hmm. He chased me up and down the parking lot on the Honda Express, shouting instructions, pull up with your foot, squeeze with your left hand. That's not your left hand, hold up your left hand. And trying to get me acquainted with a, I think it had a 5-speed transmission. I got to the point where I thought I knew it all. And I said, I'd like to ride this bike to work tomorrow. And he said, well, you really think you're ready for that? And I said, oh yeah, I can do that. I work in the operating room, so I go to work in blue jeans and tennis sneakers and change into scrubs. So no problem with clothing. Right. So at 6:30 in the morning, I get on the bike and got it out of the garage. Flip probably helped me back it out. And fired it up. And going down Long Beach Boulevard in the dark at a traffic light, I put my foot down in the grease. And he had told me never to do that with tennis sneakers. And of course, my foot slid out from under me and the bike went over with me. And it was lying in the road like a dying dog, still running, and I felt like I needed a gun to shoot the thing. It wouldn't stop running. And I ran over to the curb, and I was standing on the curb wondering what to do next. I knew I couldn't pick it up, and Flip and I had not gotten to lessons on how to pick up. So a guy came along on a Harley. He's got a do-rag on and shades at 6:30 in the morning, and he pulled over and he stopped and he looked at this thing, which had died finally by then, flooded out probably. And he said, little lady, if I pick that up for you, can you ride it? And I said, oh yeah, I can ride it fine. I just can't pick it up. So he picked it up, and of course it was flooded. And he said, let it just sit there a while, and then it'll start again after a while. So I rode it on to work, but I came home that night and I said, it went okay today, but I really think I need a bike that's smaller and lighter for my size. And Flip said, all right, well, you start watching the newspaper. We got the LA Times, which had a big column of used bikes.
Oh, yeah, that was the place to find anything used.
Yeah, anything, yeah. And of course, I didn't know one bike from another, and they were like all written in code. And he said, you find something that you think is suitable, and you show me the ad, and I'll tell you whether it's a good bike for you or not. So I said, okay. So I finally found something called the Honda TwinStar 180. And I said, does that mean 180 cc's? And he said, yeah, which didn't mean anything to me, not anything. And he said, that would be a good beginner's bike for you. He said, how much do they want for it? And I said, $800. And he said, okay, it's Friday night on Memorial Day weekend. So he said, I'm going to dash off to the bank and pull $800. You call the guy and you make a date to meet him somewhere. And we'll go and look at the bike, and if it's good, we'll pay for it and bring it home. So I said, okay. So he came back, I called, and Flip said, where's the bike? And I said, it's in Diamond Bar, which, if you know Los Angeles, is probably 30 miles out the Riverside Freeway, way to hell beyond. So Flip said, oh, no way am I going to ride a TwinStar 180 home from Diamond Bar. And I said, I'll ride it home. You don't have to ride it home. So he said,
whapping him over the head with your bra.
Yeah, exactly. So he said, well, okay, we'll go 2 up on my bike, and then you ride it home, and I'll ride home on my bike behind you and follow you, watch you, and make sure you're okay. And I said, okay, good. So we go all the way to hell out to a Diamond Bar and met him in a shopping center. The bike was cherry. It was beautiful, and it was metallic red, and I was in love. I had to have this thing. So we agreed we would buy it, and Flip said, well, I think you should go around the parking lot 2 or 3 times before you get on the freeway, because it's a freeway for 30 miles home, and you've never ridden on the freeway. You've only ridden on surface streets. So I said, okay. So I got on the bike, and I made it around the parking lot without crapping in my mess kit. And we paid the guy, and off we went. I went down the ramp with Flip following me and onto the freeway, and the first thing I discovered was the bike didn't have any mirrors on it. The fellow had taken them off at home in the garage so that he could squeeze the thing in the garage by the car, and he'd forgot to put the mirrors back on. So I couldn't see Flip behind me. I couldn't see anything changing lanes. It was a real handicap for a beginning rider.
Right.
And later when we got home, Flip said, when you're riding at speed, don't turn around in the seat and look back behind you. You're going to change lanes by accident. That's a bad mistake. And I said, well, I had to. I didn't have any mirrors, and I didn't know where you were, and I couldn't see if you were behind me or anything. So I white-knuckled it all the way home on this little TwinStar. It was maxed out at 60 miles an hour, flat out. Pulled into Belmont Shore and put my feet down at the first traffic light and fell over. I was just freaked out over the whole experience. But I got home okay, and no damage done to either me or the bike. And that was the start of my motorcycle riding career.
So I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Ann's Adventures on Two Wheels. Chronologically, we're going to go through every bike that she owned, and every one of those bikes has a story behind it that she would like to share, and from a woman's perspective back then, and be very interesting, hopefully, to a few people out there. We're not going to cheese up this video with my normal outro. We're going to keep this on a respectful level for posterity, for the family, for her children, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren someday to enjoy later on in life. That'll be entombed on my YouTube channel. So I hope everybody enjoyed it, and I hope you look forward to more. If you don't, you may not want to pass on these, because there's going to be quite a few coming over the next several months. I thank each and every one of you for joining me today. Thank you so much.